so inclined, please feel free to stand with us for the invocation, followed by a pledge which will be led by Chief Barranco. Let's pray. Father, we're thankful for this opportunity to gather. We're thankful for this day, which reminds us of your blessings and reminds us how lucky we are to live in this city. We pray that you would give wisdom to everyone who is here. May the decisions we make be pleasing to you and serve the people we represent. We pray that everything that is said and done would be pleasing to you. And we just pray, Lord, that you would keep your hand upon those who are hurting, those who are injured, and be with them through these times. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Chief, good evening.
Here, Council, good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. As is our custom, we'd like to go over the guidelines for city council meetings at this time. Good evening to our new city manager, or not city manager, assistant city manager. Sorry, Stuart. No. The guidelines for Aiken City Council meetings. Meetings are public forums in which many opinions are expressed and the business of the city must be conducted. As such, disciplined, honorable, and professional decorum is paramount. Courteous and respectful communication is expected. During public hearings, all questions and statements from the public will be directed to the chair. If you wish to speak, raise your hand and I will certainly recognize you. Please approach the podium and state your name and address. In order to allow an opportunity for everyone who wishes to address council, speakers should limit their comments to the subject being discussed. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes to address an issue and may only address an issue once unless questions from council are posed to the speaker. And with that, I'd like to recognize our Mayor Pro Tem, Councilwoman Leslie Price, for additions or deletions to the agenda. Good evening, Councilwoman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. And want to say welcome to the entire audience that's here, but also acknowledge Dr. Molnar as well, who is chair of the Arts Commission that we just mentioned, but he's also the president and CEO of the Lower Savannah Council of Government that represents 6 counties within our region. So welcome, Dr. Molnar. Having said that, Mr. Mayor, we do have a change to our agenda. Under petitions and requests, item 3, which states the resolution authorizing the City of Aiken to enter into a memorandum of understanding with James S. Watson Jr., Potter House Partners, LLC, that is being proposed as a continuance to continue this petition and request. And with that change in our agenda, other than this single change, I move that we adopt the agenda as presented to Aiken City Council members.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion for approval of the agenda with item number 3 under petitions and requests pulled for a continuance. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Gregory. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. The minutes were given to council. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, please raise your hand. Moving down to old business. Item number 1, appointments of boards, commissions, and committees. At this time, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Stuart Bedenbaugh. Good evening, Mr. Bedenbaugh.
We have no nominations for consideration at this time. And I just wanted to note, we hope to be bringing a name to you for election commission at a meeting next month. So if you have anyone for consideration, I know I've gotten a name, but if please share that with us. Again, it's one of 3 members of the election commission that's appointed to an unexpired term, but those are typically 6-year terms.
All right. Thank you, sir. At this time, I'd look to council to see if there's any names to be considered at our next meeting for appointments to boards, commissions, and committees.
Mr. Mayor, I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
With Mr. Bedenbaugh, with the election commission nomination, you know, at the last meeting, we asked about how we go about that. It's kind of different than doing it with our other boards and commissions. So if we think of someone, do we approach them and ask if they would be willing, but we don't know that they're going to be, you know what I'm saying? It
If
puts
you
us
have
in
if you have a name, we could, I guess, socialize it, and then approach the individual before it is ultimately brought to the floor. That's how it's been done in the past. But yes, it is a little different since each council member doesn't have their own appointment.
Okay, I just wanted to double check that procedure.
Yeah, I think council at the last meeting kind of wanted staff to kind of do some of that and do some of the vetting.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Any other names to be considered at our next meeting? All right, thank you. Moving down to old business, item number 2. This is a second reading in public to adopt the 2022 revised model business license ordinance by title, Chapter 12, Article 2 of the Aiken City Code to adopt 2022 revised model business license ordinance of the City of Aiken. Is there a motion?
Move.
Thank you, Councilman Girardeau. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Diggs. I know we had some questions on this from the last meeting, and I know staff has looked into it, so Mr. Beanbo, I'll turn it over to you.
Right, thank you. Yes, the main question was about the potential shortening of due date, and in, discussions with the Municipal Association and others, the fee is based on a retrospective amount of gross revenues. So the amount of the fee, the shortening wouldn't necessarily affect it. But council does have the ability in this case to provide some sort of credit, rebate, what have you. I would recommend, if we go that route, that we do it in the form of a credit, because from a staffing, administrative perspective, that would be, I think, simpler. The bills would go out with a due date of April 30th, but if it passes tonight, the due date without penalty would be the same as it's been for a number of years, which would be July 31st. But next year, regardless, because of the change in state law standardizing all the due dates, it would be a due date of April 30th, but late charges would begin accruing the next day, May the 1st. So
You're talking about in 2022?
that is correct, in 2022. So the mindset behind bringing this now, as opposed to later in the calendar year or early next calendar year, was to give individuals and businesses the ability and an adjustment period, because we will not have the flexibility to have our own due date after this year. We have to be in compliance with the state code.
And I want to say I commend staff for doing it early, because it does give businesses 2 years to adjust to the new due date as opposed to 1 year to be in line with the state statute. This is legislation I know the State Chamber of Commerce supported, as well as municipal, because it aligns every due date in the portal. So when you go on to pay taxes, if you do business in multiple counties or multiple municipalities, you just check the box and it figures out. Whereas before they were having to try to figure out, well, Aiken is in July, but North Augusta might be, so it consolidates it for business. I think the question that we all asked was, we wanted to make sure that we weren't collecting an extra 2 months and getting over it. What wasn't said in that meeting as an answer is that it based it on a calendar year, not a fiscal year like we are. So it would be just like the IRS saying, well, instead of April 15th, your taxes are due March 15th. You're not paying more money, you're just paying them earlier. So it's not collecting more money. So I don't know why we would rebate. I mean, it's just, it's pushing it earlier.
If a business, let's just say they pay $1,200 a year on business license, they pay $100 a month. That's how they budget their business.
Right.
Now we're going to give them 2 months overlap where they're going to be paying $200 for a couple months.
No,
Not this year.
that's not correct.
Not this year.
It's going to run January to December no matter
Help my
what.
brain understand it.
The collection is going to run January to December no matter.
Right.
It's just, that money for that period is going to be, because of the state law, not anything that we've done, we're just complying with it. It's going to be due earlier, but it's not paying for those months twice. It's just paying it earlier, and because of what we're doing, we're allowing them to ease it up a month this year and then a month next year. But, I mean, again, it's like if your taxes were due March 15th instead of April 15th, you wouldn't be paying more taxes. You'd just be paying them earlier. I mean,
And I guess the IRS, just for example, extended the payment dates for
Yeah.
individuals to mid-May instead of mid-April, but you'll still be paying the same amount of tax even though
Yeah.
the due date's
It's just
changed.
earlier.
yeah,
It's just earlier.
I didn't understand it, and I thought it was a very valid question, and I think this council was prudent in carrying that. I'm very comfortable with it after looking into it. So, anyway, I regress, we've got a motion and a second. Comments from the audience? Okay, we can have a discussion.
If-
Yes, sir.
So you're saying if we collect this over 10 months,
We're not collecting over 10 months. We're collecting a 12-month period, January, because the collections of business licenses on a calendar year, not a,
Gross receipts, yes.
yeah.
right?
So, and I know, man, it took, I really spent 2 days with Municipal Association lawyers and our staff trying to, but, so
Helpful to have that information in here.
it would
If you
have,
spent 2 days in it, and we didn't get
Yeah.
it, it's been helpful to get it.
well, I don't put this packet together, but, yes, it would have been.
I mean, I guess.
It would have been.
I wish you called me and asked.
Well, last meeting that it be explained.
And
But-
I apologize if the explanation didn't meet your satisfaction.
That's this one.
But, I mean, so it's not collecting an extra 2 months, it's just easing that payment in to comply with the state. Okay, any other comments, questions? It's a valid discussion, and I absolutely agree. When you asked it the other day, I had no idea about it, so.
Yeah.
If it took 2 days to understand it,
It took the lawyers who wrote it 2 days to explain it to me. And maybe they just didn't have a good person to explain it to, I don't know, but, anyway. With that, before the second reading of public hearing ordinance, amend the city code to adopt the 2022 revised model business license ordinance. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. And that's Ms. Price, yeah, Ms. Gregory, the mayor, Councilwoman Diggs, Roll, Mr. Girardo, all those opposed?
I don't know, because I can't understand it yet. I don't want to pass something I don't understand.
I understand, Councilman Waltz votes nay. It passes with a majority. All right, moving down to old business, item number 3, this is a second reading and public hearing of an ordinance amending the FY 2021 budget for funding to the Aiken Municipal Development Commission. By title, an ordinance amending the budget of the city of Aiken for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021 for funding to the Aiken Municipal Development Commission. Is there a motion?
I so move, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Broll. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Girardo. Comments from staff?
At the March 3rd work session, council heard from the AMDC chairman about a request for $500,000. We are going to go ahead, should council approve this and fulfill 40% request this fiscal year. And since it is an amount over $25,000, it requires a budget adjustment by council in the form of an ordinance. So this budget adjustment to advance $200,000 of this request is before you this evening.
All right, thank you, Mr. Beedenbow. Any comments from the audience? Comments, questions from council? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Moving down to zone the same planned residential PR and to approve a concept plan. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Jarrett. Staff.
Yes, the applicant is requesting the annexation and concept plan for 5 acres located off of Whiskey Road adjacent to the Fountain of Life Fellowship Church for a 3-story, 60-unit apartment complex. The building would be 47 feet in height, and 70% of the property would remain green space. And any property annexed into the city this size must be zoned with the planned residential zoning, and any planned residential zone must have a concept plan that must be reviewed by the Planning Commission and approved by council. The developer proposes this complex for those seniors, and it will be a mix of 36 one-bedroom apartments and 24 two-bedroom apartments. The Planning Commission heard this at the March 9th meeting and unanimously recommended approval of the development with the following conditions: that there be a minimum 40% open space that does not include the detention pond unless it is designated as an amenity pond or can be planted with trees. Additionally, 20% of the open space should be improved for passive and active recreation use and shown on the site plan. That the site development comply with the tree preservation and landscaping requirements of the zoning ordinance with additional evergreen screening plants added as necessary. That the site and landscape plan be reviewed and approved by the Department of Public Safety regarding emergency apparatus turnaround. That an encroachment permit be approved by DOT. That the access to Whiskey Road be designed in such a way to provide ingress-egress to the adjacent undeveloped property to the south of the subject. That this development comply with the Whiskey Road overlay requirements of ground-mounted monument signs, sidewalks, street trees, and the closing of any ditches along Whiskey Road, or payment of a fee in lieu of sidewalk, street tree, and curb and gutter installation. And that the applicant sign an agreement stating these conditions of approval within 180 days. I do note that there's only one point of access to this development connecting to Whiskey Road only. So the zoning ordinance requires interparcel connectivity, so an access point designated to the southern property boundary should be included when the site and landscape plan is submitted to allow for future connectivity, basically like a stub out. No traffic study will be required since the maximum trip generation is less than the 100 trip a day threshold, which would trigger a traffic study. So this is before you tonight for first reading to annex 5 acres and approve the concept plan with the conditions just read.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Beedenbow. Is there anyone here representing the developer tonight? Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Max Selby with Low Country Housing Communities. I am here today to request 5 acres of land currently zoned urban development to be annexed and zoned to planned residential to enable us to develop an additional 60 units of senior housing for residents age 55 and older in 1- and 2-bedroom apartment homes and in a 3-story building with an elevator. Our community will provide our residents with on-site amenities that include a community center equipped with gathering areas for community events, a business center, a fitness center equipped with fitness equipment appropriate for an aging population, as well as a walking trail. The building will be constructed with brick and cement fiber siding only. All of our units will be accessible and adaptable to those with disabilities. We will have a property manager and maintenance technician on site to ensure that our residents and our property's concerns are met timely. Furthermore, we will engage a third-party landscaping company to perform regular landscaping to make sure our property is kept in pristine condition throughout the year. Our community will be a senior community for those aged 55 and older. I want to make it clear that our development is and will remain a senior community now and into the future. No one can reside there that is less than 55 years of age. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have. Yes, ma'am.
Well, you actually answered 2 of the questions I had already.
Okay.
I was going to ask about the
on-site management and property managers, and of course the landscaping, and you covered that, but you said it was affordable housing for seniors. How affordable are we talking?
Well, at 80% of the area median income is who we rent to.
Any idea of how much the units will rent for?
I mean, we're still trying to finalize that right now, but, you know, anywhere from $550 to $750, yeah.
Thank you.
Are they subsidized units, or?
They're not subsidized now. I mean, we utilize tax credits to
Sure.
finance our development, so, you know, we're not a project-based Section 8 property. What happens is, you know, we agree to keep our rents and rent to people at 80% or less of median income.
Right.
Obviously, since our rents are lower, we can't afford, you know, a big mortgage like a traditional market rate apartment complex. So we apply to South Carolina Housing for tax credits. Those tax credits, then if we're fortunate to be awarded those tax credits, are syndicated to an investor to offset their tax liability. And they become our partner in the deal for a 15-year period, and they get the tax credits as the benefit. So that enables us to keep a lower mortgage. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Maintain ownership in these, or do you sell them?
Now, we maintain ownership in them, yes.
Mr. Mayor, I had a question too.
Yes, Ms. Councilwoman Brohl?
How would you, have you done a similar development in our area, or?
I actually have. I did Longleaf Senior Village, which is on the north side of the bypass, off of Bush Willow Circle. I don't know if y'all are familiar with where that's at. North, I guess, the bypass 118 and Highway 1 on York Street.
Very familiar.
And so we did that project, or that development, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago, and we still maintain ownership of that development.
Someone came before us a short while ago, asking about putting some additional units at Longleaf. Is that still planned?
That was me. That was probably
you?
2 or 3 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
No, we didn't. Our financing did not. We did not get awarded the tax.
Because I know
credits
the
for that development.
demand is
Yes,
definitely
it's
there.
definitely here. Yeah.
And those units are nice, and they look like they stay occupied.
They
I don't
problem
ever see
occupied.
it.
I wish we could do
Yeah.
more. Yes.
It's good to know that there's a successful,
Yes.
he's done that already
Longleaf is
here.
really nice.
All right. Any other questions? Councilwoman Price?
I just want to comment on the Longleaf properties, and I visit that area pretty frequently because I'm curious as to how you're maintaining the property, frankly, is my curiosity. And I have found it to be, you have a property manager at that site because it's always maintained.
We do. Yes, ma'am.
You don't see people just lingering out there with unless they're coming and going. You need to be applauded, but what I like about this development is that they're more individualized versus your high-rise, and that's quite appealing, I think. So.
Yes. We're excited about it. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Great project.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions at this time?
Just to reiterate, I think it's pretty cut and dry from looking at this, just so for sanity of soul, access to this property is coming from Whiskey Road and won't even come, you're good. And what is the buffer behind Stratford Hall to this?
What is do we have that?
It's a higher,
Yeah.
higher, go up. See, whoever's in charge.
That's what we have.
It's 200. No, just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Anyway, it's on the plat above that particular one. That's below.
Anyway, and the 200 feet?
I just wanted to state it for the record, it looks like it's 200 feet away from the subdivision. controlling it. It's right above the elevation, you got to the elevation, you go up another slide. I'm sorry,
Go to page 119. Yeah.
a little higher, there, over there to the left where the little hand is, that's moving. That's, how wide is that buffer?
Got my site plan here too, let's see. So we've got a tree preservation area over there,
Right.
and then I think it's probably 200 feet, yeah.
Okay.
Before you got your soil management area, and then you've got the walking trail and the building.
Yeah, okay.
70% green space in this, which is a lot of green space, is that correct?
Let's see, our open space, we've got, yeah, 7%.
That's way above the requirement.
Yeah. And excluding the detention, I think there's, yeah, 50%. You took out the detention for open space.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other comments from the audience?
Gary wants to say something.
I'll have to send this to the podium to. Here, she's gonna wipe that down for me.
Make sure we clean it after Jerry.
I like that.
You don't want your germ.
Sir, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Waters. I live at 1547 Dibble Road, resident of Aiken County, Oklahoma. Honorable council members and mayor, thank you for letting me speak here. I'm representing the owners of the property, Holly family. You guys were very familiar with Larry coming this year, and Larry's been on with us. So, I'm here tonight to farm. It's designed for seniors, and it seems like Aiken is becoming more and more that kind of community, and it's going towards that way. There's going to be very little traffic on Whiskey Road, and we plan that we discussed with the development that will share curb cut of this property to access, like was discussed earlier, the adjacent property. They've designed extensive buffers and distance separations, and a number were brought up a minute ago. That number of separation from the building and Stratford Hall is actually 263 feet. That was I discussed that with owners of the property, and that gives more than sufficient distance to protect them. I have personally worked with Mr. Elby and Longleaf Village 7 years ago. I was pleasantly surprised at how much they tried to adhere to the press made by the city planning department and the engineering. So we look forward to an approval that we can get that. We think it will be a good fit. Any question?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waters.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the audience? Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Do you want
Does anybody want to wipe it down? I'm not
Yeah.
going to stand close enough to it, so.
we're going to wipe it down for one person.
She's new, give her a
I'm
break.
okay, I'm okay to be special.
I think Kim took the spray bottle with her when she left.
You know, I told him that yesterday.
Well, it's there.
Thank you. If you would state your name and address for us. please.
My name is Becky Risher. I live at 307 Deep Run Road, which is in Hunter's Glen subdivision, right in the middle of everything that's going on. My question to the council members, it's great to see this development happen. If you don't develop, you don't grow. Got it, understand it, appreciate it. But when are you going to do infrastructure development on our side of town, i.e., put any sidewalks in? I've been a resident of Aiken all my life, born and raised here. We've asked every time something big has happened on our side of town, can we get sidewalks? We get sidewalks, people are more conducive to walk. We have the beautiful hotel, we got two now. We have the Country Inn Suites and we have the Holiday Inn Express. Both of them are within walking distance to get to Target, Chili's, but there's no safe avenue to get there to walk. And you take your life from your hand if you ride a bicycle down Whiskey Road. So my question is, what can I do as a citizen to get something going that we have sidewalks? Because I personally would walk to Target, it's a mile and a half, you know, good exercise, and it would be safe. I just want to know, what do I do? Who do I talk to?
Ms. Richard, I think you're at a great place to start the conversation. You can say, that's a good question. Certainly pedestrian connectivity is important as we develop.
Right.
So if you notice in the requirements that the city manager read, there's money set aside for sidewalks in front of this development.
Right, so you have the Holiday Inn Express, they put in a beautiful sidewalk
Right.
to where? Doesn't connect
But
anything.
as it develops, it will. You're right.
But-
I agree with you.
But if you look at the north side of town, north side of town's been developed, sidewalks, lamp poles, and as I just heard, down in Collington and Abbeville and that area, you're putting in a connector. Great, perfect. But the south side needs some of the same consideration that you're doing for the north side. Someone in this room, I have heard, has said that if you do the development, then the sidewalks will come. Well, I disagree with that. I think you need to put the sidewalks in while you have the access before the buildings get built. So, bug in the ear, I'll be here again next time to complain.
No, it's a good conversation.
I just think something should be done. We have too many wonderful venues that people can get out and walk to. And there's no safe place to walk on Whiskey Road. The roads aren't well maintained on the edges.
Yeah. And I would say, Ms. Richard, I think it's important too that the safety of it is a priority of it, quite
Oh,
frankly.
absolutely.
You don't want to wait till an accident and be reactive, so.
And if you're building this community of 55 plus, what if they could get out and walk to Chili's or walk to Target if they had a safe avenue to get there? That's all I'm saying. Thank you for listening. Like I said, I'll be back. You need to get in touch with me. Feel free. I'll spearhead anything that needs to be done.
Thank you for being here
Thank you
tonight.
so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Ms.
Great
Fisher.
points.
No, thank you for coming.
You made it,
You stated it very well, Mr.
and you made a good case of something that needs to happen, but part of the problem is a lot of the property is owned by the county or is in the county, it's not in the city. And it's sort of a,
That means the city needs to annex it all.
if it was that easy, I'd be doing it left and right.
There's other people I won't get back to.
I appoint Ms. Richard to a chair that.
Jerry to help her. Jerry, do it, won't you?
Because I've got a big mouth, I'll join any committee. And, you know, the squeaky wheel does get the oil, so, just saying.
Okay.
Richard.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the audience? Okay, thank you. Any other comments from council?
Mayor, may I?
Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman Gregory.
I mean, Miss Becky, I mean, she's right. She's 150% right. You know, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself because normally I was so wrapped up in what a great project this is, and I normally ask for sidewalks when these developments are coming in. Like, sidewalks is one of those things that are so important at the beginning of a development, and I did it. And but she's right. But to Councilman Gerardo's point, that a lot of that property is, there's SCDOT, there's county, there's a lot of other bodies in there that obviously deter that possibility, but is there something, I mean, I didn't really look at the specifics of the property, and maybe the developer wants to answer my question, but what kind of walkability and connectivity is the project proposing?
I think that, I believe that they've already agreed to put, Mr. Beanbo, I looked, you, in your opening comments, did you address that?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
no problem. They would, they must comply with the overlay requirement, Whiskey Road overlay requirements, and an option of that is payment and fee in lieu of a sidewalk.
Okay.
And again, they would only, if they choose to pay, it would just be the cost of the side, based on the formula, as if they were putting a sidewalk along the road frontage along their property only.
And that money is earmarked for sidewalks for the future?
Yeah, Whiskey Road overlay improvements, it's in its own fund.
Okay.
And, obviously, I think it never hurts to have a conversation with the county pre-development. And again, I got wrapped up in the neatness of the project that I totally missed that, so I apologize. But thank you, Stuart, for articulating that.
And, it's something interesting just to ride down that highway and look at where there are sidewalks, and that's where the city is, and where there's not, that's the county. And those people don't want to be annexed necessarily. That's what we go back to the donut holes. and trying to get all of that done, which hopefully one day we can, but it'd be great, and if the county would come along,
We
all the more better.
definitely need them.
That's where the arts funds come in.
That's right. But there's just not enough of them.
All right. All right, all those in favor of first reading of this item, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
We move down to item number 2. This is a first reading of an ordinance to annex property at 116 Marvin Drive and zone it residential single-family RS10. By title, an ordinance to annex to the corporate limits of the city of Aiken, zone the same residential single-family RS10. Is there a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Councilman Jarrett. Thank you, Councilman Waltz. Comments from staff?
Yes, the applicant is requesting annexation of this property at 28/100ths of an acre. Proposal is to zone it residential single-family RS10. Property is located in Virginia Acres subdivision, and the Planning Commission reviewed this request and unanimously recommended annexation.
Thank you, Mr. Beedenbaum. Any comments from the audience? Any comments or questions from council?
It's one of our donut holes, right?
It is.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. So this is good.
All those in favor of this first reading of item number 2, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay.
We move to item number 3. This is approval of the AECOM Strategic Economic Development Action Plan, an item we spent a lot of time last week going over and enjoyed that process. Is there a motion?
So move, Mr. Mayor, that we adopt this.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Price, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gregory. Comments from staff?
Thank you. We did receive the plan, the AMDC, December of 2020, and spent the next month or so reviewing the plan. We also provided copies to council at that time. At the February 2nd, 2021 meeting, the AMDC unanimously recommended to council the approval of this plan. And then, as you know, the chairman, Keith Wood, and Dr. Tom Hallman has discussed these action items at several New Horizons session. This plan is prepared pursuant to the relevant section of the South Carolina Code for the AMDC. Is designed to be general and includes a wide variety of possible land uses, funding sources, and methods, etc. The approval of the plan does not create a specific project, nor does it obligate the city or the AMDC to any course of action other than continued study and the possibility of future project proposals based on the broad set of goals that are established in the plan. Any future concrete proposals for actual projects would need to be approved separately if and when they're fully developed. This approved redevelopment plan, upon city council approval, the commission would be authorized to acquire property, to execute contracts for clearance and prep of land for resale, and to take other actions necessary to carry out redevelopment plans. And it is before you tonight for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Beedenbaum. Any comments from the audience? Okay. Comments or questions from council? Okay. let me just say, I think it's a good plan. I appreciate the work that it was land planners, economists, and a lot of other folks that made up the AECOM team who put this together, and I think it has action items. I would hope that the city will follow up with identifying a person to be more of a project manager to see to it that as our community partners work on this plan that we have a level of accountability. I think it's an opportunity, and I do think this. We had an opportunity to talk today that through adversity comes opportunity. And I think through COVID, after COVID, as we go into a post-COVID-19 world, I see the City of Aiken having a lot of opportunities right now, and I think this plan will be a big part of it. So at this time, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of approval of the AECOM Strategic Economic Development Action Plan, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Going down to petitions and requests, item number 1, this is approval of a resolution to provide water and sewer services to property located on Chukker Creek Road by title, a resolution authorizing the provision of water and sanitary sewer utility services to property located on Chukker Creek Road. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Girardeau. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brohl. Comments from staff?
Thank you. WTC Enterprises, the applicant, has applied for city water and sewer services for this development of single-family detached homes. The proposed subdivision is located on Chukker Creek Road, about 1,400 feet west of Whiskey Road. The subdivision currently, as proposed, would consist of 71 80-foot wide lots for single and two-story single-family homes, and it is not contiguous to the city limits yet, so the policy for the provision of water and sanitary service for unincorporated areas would come into play, and water and sanitary sewer are available for the site. So there are certain conditions that must be met in order to provide that service. The Planning Commission discussed this request and unanimously recommended approval with the following conditions: that an executed agreement on the provision of city services listing conditions of approval be recorded within 90 days of approval by City Council at the RMC office. Second, that there be a condition that the agreement to annex the property as soon as it becomes contiguous be executed and recorded. Number 3, the city engineer approve the design of the water and sanitary sewer service. Number 4, that the site and landscape plan comply with the City of Aiken tree preservation and landscaping regulations. Number 5, that in lieu of the 20% open space requirement, the applicant provide a rear yard 20-foot buffer for perimeter lots and a 15-foot rear yard buffer for interior lots. This buffer may be incorporated into residential lots and shall include installation of trees or alternative landscaping. Number 6, that the sign be a ground-mounted monument sign no larger than 24 square feet for a single sign, or a combined maximum of 24 square feet if a double sign, with a maximum of 8 feet in height. Number 7, that the ingress-egress drive receive an SCDOT encroachment permit approval. And number 8, that a driveway analysis reviewing the operations of the proposed access to Chukker Creek, including a turn lane analysis reviewing the potential need of left or right turn lanes into the development, be submitted for review and approval by the city's on-call traffic engineer, and that any required mitigation identified therein be installed prior to issuance of any certificates of occupancy, unless otherwise recommended by the analysis. And traffic generation estimates shall be updated to the ITE 10th edition. So this resolution authorizing water and sewer service to property located on Chukker Creek Road is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Beedenbow. Can I ask, what is this property zoned in the county? Mr. Bland may know that, I don't know. Mr. Bland, good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, it's residential single-family conservation, which is why the development is relatively larger lot sizes. Some of these are near half-acre lots, so yeah, it is RC.
But since it's not contiguous, they're not, obviously not asking for annexation, just for utilities services?
That's correct. That's correct. It is not contiguous this time.
And if we didn't grant that, would they have the opportunity to still do this development with, I guess they would just have to use wells and,
I was gonna say, I think it'd depend on the feasibility of the ability to do, a development, yeah, using wells and septic if it did not have city water and sewer.
thank you. I was looking through the packet. I was just wondering what it was on, so thank you for that.
College Acres water is over on the other side of the highway, is it not?
Correct.
Hotel over there, we denied it years and years ago, having city water, and they went and got it somewhere else.
From New Ellington.
Correct.
Yeah, also on the opposite side is also in the New Elton Fire District. This is in the, Aiken, their public service area.
And they didn't have to comply with any of our landscaping or any of that when they went with New
Changed to
Wellington
New
water.
Wellington,
Yeah.
right.
Thank you, Mr. Bland.
What is the
Thank you, Mr.
closest city property to that property?
If you go west down Chukker
Yeah,
Creek
you can-
Road, it would be Plantation South, I believe.
Yeah, right.
Ridge is Chukker.
Actually, Woodside.
Ridge is past.
Right, the
It's
ridge
the
is
next
past
thing
it.
down.
Woodside, as you go west down Chukker Creek.
And what's between that, what's between, I'm trying to figure out what's between Woodside, Plantation South, and that property.
This little stretch
Yeah.
here, is
There's
series
about
of,
3 properties,
Yeah, about
three
three or four
large
properties, yeah.
tracts.
Horse farm or something back
Right,
there.
correct.
Are they developed?
The
are
typical
they-
kind of horse properties,
Okay.
yeah, or kind of large residential properties at this time.
Yeah.
These are nice homes.
Thank you, Mr. Bland.
Thank you.
Acre tract and a 9-acre tract in between contiguity. That's, I guess, the closest route.
Have we approached them for annexation?
Not at this time.
No. I know we have some citizens who'd like to address us this time, so I'd welcome if anyone from the audience who'd like to come up, please feel free to. Recognize you, raise your hand. Yes, yes, sir.
I'm just a citizen, right?
Yes, sir, you, that's pretty important. That's pretty important in these chambers, though, so.
Well, I didn't quite hear your question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Thomas Egan, E-G-A-N. I live at 1525 Sunshine Court. I'm about 100 foot downstream from the new development. Okay, I didn't hear his answer, but without city services, he would be restricted to a 1-acre lot, somewhere between a 1-acre lot and a 3-acre lot. I guarantee it would be at least 1 acre, but I couldn't quite understand the 3-acre part. But without city services, he has to have 1-acre lots, okay?
As a minimum for septic.
Pardon me?
As a minimum to have a septic tank is what you're saying?
Well, no, the zoning says 1-acre lots.
For RC in the county?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I have some handouts. I only have 3, but you can share them.
If you want to leave it with the city manager, and then we can get it from him.
Okay. They're important to my presentation.
Well, you don't have but 3, and there's 7 of us, so,
Well, they can be shared. There's just some photos and
yes, sir.
there's some GIS maps that are really to help me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. My first topic was going to be on stormwater, but since I'm limited to 5 minutes, I'm going to skip that and just say that we've got a problem coming down the pike, and the development there is only going to make it worse. So in 20 years or 30 years, you're going to be doing another $100 million project to correct the stormwater. Okay, my second item was, and I got a little confused because I spoke at the county meeting, and I've been going back and forth between the county zoning and the city zoning. But
Yes.
on one of them, it said lots should be consistent with the character of existing development. Okay, in the county zoning, I believe it would be RS 15.
No, that's city.
That's city.
If it was in the city. Okay. And that proposed use should consider natural features, drainage patterns, and surrounding land uses. That's 4.2.6 in the Aiken City zoning code. towards Whiskey Road to the right, zoning seems to be a free-for-all. But if you go north of the project, west and south, all the lots are at least 5 acres or more. And then on Oak Brook Drive, which isn't shown on the map, but it's very close, I think it's shown at the very bottom, the county zoning is 5 acres. So basically, on 3 sides, we have 5-acre properties, and on the Whiskey Road side, we have, like I said, anything goes. So I think we should be kind of in the middle. I think we should be, my opinion, of course, is that we should be favoring the larger lots. Okay, my next point is open space. It says, required open space shall be in addition to any required landscape buffer or setback areas. Now, I don't believe that should be true, but that's the way it is. And if it was RS-15, it would require 20% open space.
So it's zoned, I want to be clear, so I want to make sure I understand you too. So RS-15 is a city designation?
Yes.
Okay, well, this is zoned in the county, so the county, is it RC is what Ryan said, I believe? So the standards would be whatever they allow in RC. We don't set that, we're talking strictly about whether we provide water or sewer.
Okay, you asked him the question, if he didn't get water or sewer.
Right.
It would be a minimum of 1-acre lots.
He didn't say that.
I'm saying that because that's what the county says. That's the county zoning.
Thank you. And they did, Mr. Egan, make copies for everybody.
You can share.
So thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, the first map shows my property. X marks the proposed development.
Okay.
A is Gary and Eva Finnan. I'm B. I have 9 acres there. And C is Robert Zoll. You can see we have big properties. Okay, and all the properties to the left of the page are large properties. And Oak Brook Drive shows on here. So everything below Oak Brook Drive is zoned 5 acres. So this is just to show you what the existing area is like and what the existing zoning is like. Okay, the next GIS map, I have that on here to show 2 things. X is the development we're talking about. A and B and C are the same people I was talking about. I'd like you to notice 2 things. Number 1, all the trees at the bottom of the proposed development. It's a triangular area. It's about 3.8 acres. I've calculated from the GIS map, so it could be plus or minus, but it's almost 4 acres of trees. And then below the property line is Gary Finnan's property and my property. And I just wanted to show the barrier, the wildlife barrier that we left. I think that's important to be, get consistent with what the neighbors do. If we can put in a barrier like that, I can't see why they can't, especially when they should be putting in 20% open space. Okay, now the tree ordinance, the county has a tree ordinance. It's 24-5.1.-5. And that says no clear cutting in buffer zone or open space areas. Now, he's considering that pond open space, the retention, the stormwater pond. And that's right where all these trees are. Now, if you look at the photos I submitted, this is Eva Finnan, who lives in A. The top 4 pictures are her around some of the trees that are in that area that they're just going to cut these down to put in the pond. And then the two pictures on the bottom are looking at that treed area from a distance. Okay, the next picture is four here. While I was investigating and taking pictures, I noticed a pipe there. This has really nothing to do with what we're talking about. But this pipe is run from the development next door, so he could drain his swimming pool onto this guy's property. This is what we have for neighbors in this town. They don't want to dump their swimming pool water on their own property, so they dump it on the next guy's property because he's not there.
Is that property's not in the city, is it? It's not?
No, it isn't.
No, okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, the property that's doing the dumping
It's not in the city.
is not in the city, but it has city services.
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes a difference.
it does. Yes, sir, it does.
Okay, well-
Did you present this to the county when they were going through it?
I didn't take these pictures until after I had the meeting with the county.
How many readings have they already done, if you want me to ask?
Pardon me?
How many readings have the county gone through? Have they gone through 3 readings already on this?
They've approved it. Yes, they approved it.
3 times?
I thought it was twice.
We do twice. They do 3, yeah.
I can't answer your
Okay,
question.
I'm just curious.
They have 3 readings, yeah.
Yeah, they have 3 readings on it.
Okay, they've approved it.
Okay.
All 3.
Okay.
Okay, and then the next 3 pictures are standing inside that treed area, just to show you what it was like. The first picture is looking deep into it. The second picture is looking to the right, towards my property. No, the second picture is looking towards the right, towards the development. And the third picture is looking towards my property. Now, the last picture is standing inside that wildlife barrier I left. The first picture. It's about 35 feet wide, runs the entire length of the property, and the picture below it is standing right outside the wildlife area to show you a picture of Gary's farm and my farm. So that's the end of the pictures.
All right, sir.
And I really wanted to bring up the fact that where the stormwater basin is located, they're going to cut all these trees right down. I was wondering if they had to, if you're going to say no to cutting those trees down, they're going to have to make up a new landscape plan or site plan. Are you going to require that?
They are required to meet the standards that the city, even though they're not in the city, they're asked to comply with our tree and landscaping standards as they develop it.
Required to?
They are.
So then they wouldn't be able to cut down these trees?
They would have to plant and put substantial back to meet what our standards are for the development. Is that correct? I mean, I guess I'm paraphrasing a bit, but yeah.
So they would have to.
But, Mr. Egan, here's the thing. This has been approved, according to you, by the county, which it's in. The county is a governing body where they're strictly asking us for utilities. So all the things you're saying I think they're valid, but it needs to be said at the county council, not the city council, because this is in the county. We're not a governing body over it. We can require some things, which we put in some stipulations.
Well, I would like you to require them to save the trees.
Okay.
You know, without this sewer and water, they wouldn't be able to do this. So you have a lot of control.
I don't know that that's the situation. I'll find out, but.
I guarantee you it is.
Okay. I'll find out, but I don't know.
Okay.
The good thing is it takes 2 readings for us, not 1, so I have an opportunity to check that out.
So there's one more reading to this?
Yes, sir. Am I wrong?
No, it's a resolution.
Oh, it's a resolution. Okay. So, yes, sir.
Okay, well, I didn't get an answer on my cider landscaping plan because I don't know if you're gonna say they can't cut the trees down, if that's one of your requirements, then they're gonna have to redo it, but I don't know what they're gonna do.
The only requirement that we put in is that they meet our landscaping and tree requirement that we have. I don't think it will address what they take out. Is that right, Gary? Okay, sure. Ryan, do you want to?
I mean, it says it's got to apply to the tree ordinance.
Yeah,
Yes.
so,
We do not have a tree preservation requirement for single-family residential.
Okay.
We generally follow the planned residential criteria when looking at these from the city side. So it does require 20% open space and a perimeter buffer, which the applicant is, one of the conditions on here recommended is as an attempt to try to reestablish some of that buffer. A lot of it doesn't have a buffer, but some of it does, but
Sure.
try to establish that on a lot-by-lot basis.
thank you. So there's a buffer requirement.
Well, I don't know too much about buffers, and I'm just curious if the tree ordinance holds, and if you're gonna make it one of the requirements. And I don't know what the tree ordinance says, to tell you the truth, but I know they want the big trees to be saved, which according to the plan, they're not being saved.
Yes, sir. What Mr. Bland just said is on single-family developments, that I don't think that requirement is in place.
For commercial development.
Yeah.
There is a buffer required along perimeter lots that are on any of the edges of the platted property. And it's a 20-foot buffer.
Okay.
But if I can't understand. I can't understand whether you could or could not put a requirement in there to save the trees.
It's not in the county, so.
What?
So, no, we bring it up to what our residential standards are, but we're not going above what our residential requirements are.
Okay, so your residential requirements would require them to keep these trees.
It would allow them to take them out.
It would allow them to take them out?
Yes, sir.
Because this is residential development.
Okay, so the tree ordinance doesn't apply to residential development?
There's a regulation as to what has to be planted, but it does not require what has to be saved. It just says what has to be planted as a buffer and such.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you for listening to me.
Mr. Egan.
Thank you.
I think it was important that you be heard. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Council. My name is Gary Finnan. I live at 1517 Sunshine Court, next door to Mr. Egan. First time I've done this with regard to this kind of scenario. So I am curious, just to make sure I equally understood what you said. I believe that there was some sort of concession where the 20% green space was going to be absorbed into the lots with a 20-foot, within the 20-foot border of the property. So basically, everyone's backyard is now going to be the space where the green space is going to be absorbed into. Did I understand that properly?
Yes.
So if someone goes in there and cuts everything out, there is no need to create any green space. So my property touches the complete backside of that property. Sorry, this is my property here. So the whole backside here is basically that the whole buffer will be taken away. There's no requirement for a 20-foot buffer there. Is that correct?
My understanding that it is. I again ask to recognize our.
Because according to the plans, the retention pond comes right up pretty much to the property line.
Yeah.
So you can clarify that for me, sorry.
Yeah, my apologies, yeah, because I am, not the developer on this, the city planning director, but the way that the planning commission has a recommended condition of approval here, typically with a planned residential standard, we would require 20% open space. A lot of times that's a perimeter buffer. It doesn't have to be, but it's a common open space. As an alternative, the planning commission has presented an option here to have the 20% open space requirement apply to the rear yard of residentially platted lots. So I do not believe it would necessarily apply to a retention pond that would be built at the city, at the county standards. The city landscaping standards would require that be buffered by evergreen, the retention pond itself. That's the only standard there. So perimeter lots would have a 20% depth, whether that be platted as an outlot or an easement or some way of doing that. Interior lots, 15 foot, 20 foot and 15 foot.
Mayor, can we ask a question?
Yes, please. Councilwoman Gregory.
I just want to make sure it's on the record and it's clarified. You're talking these particular scenarios if it were a city lot.
That's correct.
Okay, but it's not.
That's correct.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that. It is not a city lot, and therefore none of that applies.
There was a council policy passed several years ago that says, with provision of city services to a property outside the city limits, that it be reviewed per our planned residential standards, again, with some exceptions being
Okay.
up to the county rather than the city, and this being one of them, the open space requirement being one of the things that is evaluated as part of that. There have been times it's been waived, there's been times it's been altered.
So
It's used as guidance.
So in this case, was it reviewed?
Yes.
Okay, and so the question is, in this particular case, for this particular resolution and this provision, are we requesting a buffer for the perimeter of this property, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. What is the length, or the size of this buffer?
20 feet.
That in lieu of our 20% open space requirement, the applicant provide a rear yard 20-foot buffer for perimeter lots.
20 feet, okay.
Yeah, and then there's a 15-foot rear buffer for the interior lot. So if you would go to the site plan, which I think is
Page 194.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's either, I think it's up. I think it's the other direction. Yeah, above the photos of the house there.
Right there.
So again, so you have a kind of a row of perimeter lots,
Yeah.
and then these would be the interior lots.
Great, so that's what we're doing as a city for this particular resolution to take place. Now, at the county level,
Right.
what are their requirements when it comes to buffer or anything if we approve this resolution?
I can't speak to all county requirements. My recollection, and this is just my recollection of it, they do not have a buffering requirement for single-family residential. They have a buffering requirement for commercial or more intensive uses that abut single-family residential, but not necessarily vice versa.
So the point I'm trying to make is the county has approved this to do whatever they want, basically. Right now, the developer can cut it all down, flatten it all out, and it's good to go. So a buffer, doing this would be probably a wise approach to maintain a buffer. So that's, am I off in saying that?
Essentially, it was, yes, so that this recommended condition of approval was kind of a negotiated medium between planning commission and the developer as a way of trying to meet the intent of the city's requirement by still also deferring to county standards.
Right. But it appears that that buffer is viable based on this particular resolution versus, if we don't approve this, they go get water and sewer somewhere else and there is no buffer to be had.
I
So,
believe that whenever we put water and sewer in, we can require about anything we want on a
Right,
piece of
correct,
property.
correct.
So we've strengthened the property here as opposed to diminish it.
right. Yes. I just wanted to make sure that was understood.
And I think that's our point entirely, is, it's a little bit of rape and pillage here.
Thank you, Ryan.
I never got any notification. There was a yellow sign out there. First time I saw the sign was for water and sewer. So I believe it was put in the newspaper, etc. I didn't see it. So that's my own problem. I think Mr. Regan has the same challenge, but we live in the countryside. And when we bought the property, we we looked at the zoning from the point of view of, you know, like kind of zoning or development. So to see something basically coming in for a clear cut and take everything away, and particularly, you know, let me just tell you what happens on the other side of this property.
But this isn't zoning, this isn't a zoning request. We're not changing the zoning.
No, I understand that, so that's fine, but it's the semantics of understanding it. So for me, I didn't understand that they could put this many houses, Mr. Regan had said, on this lot. Regardless, this property that's right along here, we've had dead dogs, we've had trees, we've had campers, we've had fires, because for exactly the same reason, overpopulation, people coming in, messing with our horses, etc. So we're losing what we consider part of the countryside. All of these properties that are everywhere down there are 5 acres plus. We happen to be 18. So if we do have to succumb to this urbanization, then the reality is, aren't we entitled to some form of buffer? And putting in a backyard, someone's backyard, as green space is, quite frankly, is ridiculous, because I could have someone move in there and they don't give a damn about a tree. And all that's going to happen is all of those properties there, including mine, are going to have someone's empty backyard. By definition, that is not a buffer.
Can we talk to the developer and discuss the buffer requirements?
I think we can. Let's let Mr.
Yeah, so, you know,
finish
again,
that.
I think,
Yes, we can.
sorry. Yeah, and so that's really the point is, you know, what do we take? We in the field the other day, and I know this is changing, but there's a herd of deer that lives in that field, okay? They're gonna have to go move somewhere else. This is the impact that we have when we start to encroach upon agricultural areas. And if there's no consideration, and even a 20% green space consideration is better than nothing, and someone's backyard being appropriated as green space, I think that's a fallacy. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Yeah. Do we have somebody representing the developer here? Yeah. Good evening. Thank you for that. Good evening. Thank you for
yes.
being here. Yes, sir.
I'm David Banks, work with Southern Partners Engineering Company that put together the plans for this project. I'm here representing WTC Enterprises, and I would have introduced myself, but I guess y'all have some questions y'all would probably want to ask me.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we are developing 71 lots in 2 phases off of Chukker Creek Road. And we would like to get water and sewer service. One of the questions, we are RC zoning. How that is determined in Aiken County is they take the average lot size within 1,000 feet of the property, and it's 80% of that. Any lot over 3 acres, they bring that down to 3 acres. So the lot size is determined by Aiken County. It does not matter if we have water or sewer to this property. We will be able to. We would have to apply for septic tanks. We prefer not to do that. That's bad for the environment. It's bad for everybody. So that's why we're asking for water and sewer.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So you're going to develop it regardless of whether we provide the water or sewer, correct?
It will be developed. I'm not sure my client would. He specifically wants this. We don't want to, I mean, that's a hit or miss thing. But it could be developed in these are 4/10 of an acre, which is in today's market is very large. I know it's hard to believe. I live on a half-acre lot, and I think it's kind of small, but in today's market, that's a pretty large lot, and that's one of the reasons we requested the buffer. I mean, the 20% open space, because the large lots are.
The reason I ask that is just before our meeting tonight, we kind of talked about there was a development on Whiskey Road that came to us and asked just for water and sewer, and we did not. I was not on council. I don't know how many were, but we denied it, and they got water and sewer from New Ellington, and they came under no landscape restrictions,
At the
no,
hotel site you're talking about?
no egress, ingress kind of things. It was not, it would have been a much nicer, better development had the city been in charge of, because we put our the county doesn't have the same.
Yeah, they have no restrictions. The plan you saw there, we would have no buffers. They're divided and landscaped island down the middle. And there's a lot of different things that, because I deal in both the city and the county. Yeah, we would not be doing a lot of things that we're doing on this project. So, yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's.
A tree would not be required. Our tree buffer is going to be part of our owners association's covenants, where you have to have a tree in your yard at these locations, and you're responsible for that. And if not, the covenant, the covenants will override the homeowner on cutting down trees and things like that in these buffer areas. So those will be protected.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that was, thank you, Councilwoman. The point I was trying to make is there's protection through this city process. And
yes.
I mean, my recommendation is you guys and the neighbors talk to the developer. Talk about those buffers. Talk about, what you can do with those buffers. But I mean, if we don't get involved, they don't have to do anything. So it can become just a complete flat space, see-through, no nature space of anything. So
and the area around the detention pond, we could leave a buffer there.
Yeah.
That's just,
I feel like that would be a great conversation.
Mr. Banks, I'm sorry, say that again.
We could leave the buffer around the detention pond, which is not part of y'all's. It's 20 feet. It's, we're dealing at 150, 300, skip by scale. That 20 feet is not, and I mean it's something we could deal with. Okay. And if y'all wish to choose to add that to it as a condition, we would be accepting of that.
Would the property owners be satisfied with that?
Well, I don't know that.
I don't think they're going to
No,
be
sir.
satisfied with anything.
Answer that question, please.
That's not our focus.
No, sir. Everybody's already had an opportunity to.
Well, you asked the question.
I just asked, it's okay.
And the answer to the question, briefly, is we have no teeth. As you said, the property developer will do pretty much what he likes. At the moment, you guys actually have the teeth. You have the ability to decide whether you put water into this project under the restrictions that you have or criteria. We don't have any teeth. There's three of us. We don't have any teeth. They're going to do it, as they said, whether we like it or not. And we're basically going to encroach, and we're going to diminish and basically have mass housing where it used to be countryside. I understand that might happen, but we have no teeth, so I think
That has nothing to do with the city, though.
Thank you.
Sir. Are there any other questions for Mr. Banks?
No, thank you so much, Mr. Banks.
Thank you.
Thank you. You've already spoken for 14 minutes.
Okay, but he's told a falsehood. I have the proof here. I have a piece of the county code where he told a falsehood. And I'd just like to read it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience? Okay. Comments, questions from council?
I think it's important to, they're going to do something anyway, whether it's 1 acre lots or whether it's 1/4 acre lots or whatever, and I know you may prefer 1 acre lots, but that's not our call. We're being asked for water and sewer. Property's going to get developed. It'll be better if the city is involved in water and sewer. And he said he'd leave some of the trees. I don't know. We don't have enough information for me to analyze what the size of the retention pond is and all of that, but he said they'd leave the trees around the retention pond. That's better than nothing. Otherwise, they'll all probably be gone. So that's my feeling.
Council, I don't remember who made the motion and second on this, but could we amend this to include the buffer around the retention pond?
That's council's desire, yes, sir.
I think it was my motion, so I'd be good
I'm
with
sorry, I didn't on this one, so.
Was it my motion, Sarah? Was it
Who
my
made the motion and second on this, Ms. Rideout?
So long ago, forgot.
I think you did.
I think he had
I did
second.
too.
He did second.
It was Mr. Gerardo and Mr. Waltz.
Right.
Okay.
So you have to amend, he has to second it, right?
You did that.
Roll. Okay. Very good. So the amendment would be, I want to make sure we get it right, but I mean, I thought it was a reasonable concession that there would be a 20-foot buffer around the retention pond. Is that what you offered up, Mr. Banks?
Yes, we're already putting a buffer behind the lots that front the detention pond, so I'd like for that buffer to be around the perimeter property line of the detention pond, if that makes sense. So it would.
A 20-foot buffer around the perimeter?
Be even better for them as far as protection.
Right.
Yeah, that's, you know, because we are putting trees on the back of every lot. Yes. That's
There's the south line and the west line.
Yeah, plan of the plan. Plan north, plan east, south.
And you stated that you're putting, Mr. Banks, trees behind every lot, is that?
On the perimeter, we have a 20-foot, we're calling a buffer, but a planting strip, whatever that is, and in the interior lots, within the circle, it's a 15-foot strip in there with trees in that area also. So we're actually going to have a lot more trees than are on site. They may not all be conglomerated in that one area, condensed in that one area, but pretty much throughout.
Okay, so our amendment is going to be to add a 20-foot buffer of the perimeter around the retention pond.
Yeah, around the exterior property line, if that's okay. So it's not so I'm not doubling up on the interior stuff.
Okay.
So how do you want me to phrase that?
You don't have to, so it's what, it's a, yes, sir.
Then we typically call it evergreen buffer, planted evergreen buffer.
Okay.
Okay.
It would be you would add, as a condition, you would add a 20-foot planted green buffer on the
Property line?
south
And west, yes. The south and west side.
south and west of the detention pond.
And they'll have it on the east side of the retention pond too, because he's saying it's a perimeter. Yeah, right.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
So what Gary said, amended.
Okay,
So let it be
Ms.
written.
Broll, are you
I
satisfied with that as
second that
well?
amendment to the motion.
Very good. All right. So before us is the original motion amended as the attorney has stated to add the additional buffer requirement to the retention pond. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Item number 3, actually, we're going to item number 2 under petitions and requests, aren't we? This is approval of a resolution to provide water service to property on East Pine Log Road by title of resolution authorizing the provision of water utility service to property located on East Pine Log Road. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Price. Comments from staff?
Thank you. The applicant is requesting city water service for approximately 1,500 acres on East Pine Log Road, and the applicant will propose to construct a retail outlet store, including a 4,800 square foot store and a 1,600 square foot storage building. And there will be concrete pad storage areas constructed around the perimeter of the eastern part of the site for bulk storage of landscape material. And this property is located on East Pine Log Road, east of Old Airport Road. And the council has adopted the policy for water and sanitary service to unincorporated areas, as was discussed with the prior project. Water only is available to the site at this time. The Planning Commission unanimously, with one recusal, the remaining Planning Commission members unanimously recommended passage. and this is the following. Number one, that an executed agreement on the provision of city services listing conditions of approval be recorded within 90 days of approval by council at the RMC office. Number two, that there be a condition that the agreement to annex the property as soon as it becomes contiguous be executed and recorded. I would say we may want to consider adding "and has access to city sewer" as well as a condition to annex, because it squares with our water and sanitary sewer service to unincorporated areas, that if you don't have access to city sewer, you don't have to annex, to be consistent. That the city engineer approve the design of the water service and sanitary sewer service if applicable, and that the site and landscape plan comply with the tree preservation and landscaping regulations, that the site and landscape plan comply with the City of Aiken open space and buffer requirements, and that the sign area be no larger than 75 square feet for a single sign, or a combined maximum of 75 square feet if a double sign, with a maximum of 18 feet in height, and that the ingress-egress drive receive an encroachment permit from SCDOT.
All right. Thank you. Just a question about what you recommended to have access to city sewer. Is that a requirement for annexation?
On number 2?
Mayor, back in 2016, when council amended their water and sewer service policy, council at that time felt that it was not equitable to property owners if you didn't have both water and sewer service available to a property to force them to annex. And so the policy at that time was, if you're only offering water or sewer, but not able to offer both, then you could still pass a resolution authorizing that service, but you would not be requiring the annexation, even if they were contiguous at that time, until you were able to offer both services. That was the council policy in 2016.
Okay. I know it's our policy. Is that a policy by action or a policy through ordinance?
Yes, council passed a resolution adopting that policy in 2016.
We don't necessarily have to amend this to say that, though, do we?
I don't think it was, I'm not sure, that they have not signed an annexation petition at this point, is that correct?
That is correct.
Do they have signed an annexation agreement?
Correct, so that we do not have an annexation petition on this. This was a Scribner's error to have left that out. Typically, that condition, that standard condition would say that it would need to be, and that was the way it was presented to the Planning Commission, that the condition of that an agreement to annex a property be as soon as it becomes contiguous and sanitary sewer available.
Okay.
And so just for your information, sanitary sewer right now is about a little over 1,000 feet away, crossing about right there. The water's regularly available.
I'm comfortable. I just wanted to know.
Yes, but we do not currently have an annexation petition from them because the sewer was not available, and we recommended that to them based on the council policy.
Thank you, Mr. Bland. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Do we need to amend?
Yes, so before we take well, I guess we've already had a motion and a second. So we would ask as a result of a Scribner error that we added and also has access to city sewer, if that's all.
That would be in paragraph 2 of the resolution. It's on page 202. Under now therefore be it resolved in paragraph 2, as soon as it becomes contiguous and has access to city sewer.
Would that be all right with our motion and our second?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
I motion.
Very
Do I
good.
have to repeat it or no?
No, I think we're fine, so. All right, very good. Any comments from the audience? Comments, questions from council? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Item number 3 was pulled for continuation, so we move down to information and issues and updates. Anything for the good, Mr. Beedenbow?
A reminder that the Statement of Economic Interest ethics forms, if you filed them online, are due by March 30th. 5-day grace period.
This one on the watch? What's
That
That was continued.
Yeah, that is continued. Next meeting, I can tell you the reason it was continued was the engineers came back with modification to the pond, and there were some questions of the, that will be answered, and I believe it will be back in front of council April the 12th.
Good. And we plan on having a session so that council can share, I guess, our goals from the New Horizons meetings and goals and expectations for the next year to staffs as we go into the budget process.
Yes, April the 5th, 2 weeks from today.
Very much. With that, I'd take a motion to adjourn. Councilwoman Broll, second. Councilwoman Gregory.